Well, hello, Stacy Murphy here with a quick video on foraging in the woods. And this is not a topic that I talk about much in my videos, but here I am. I'm in my mom's herb garden at one of her houses, and she's got just a tiny bit of sun for a very, very short growing season. So she grows herbs, and that's very fast and easy and efficient, and so that's why she does it. And so this is all about growing as much food as you can in as small of a space as you can, which is what I usually talk about, right? But today what I'm going to talk about is foraging in the woods and why it's so important to go out with your friends, your neighbors, your community, your loved ones, your grandkids, whoever you have around, and just get them excited about the natural world. People ask me all the time, why do I grow food? Where did it come from? How did I learn? Well, I grew up with two amazing humans. My mom, who grows a lot of food. When we were young, she had like a mini farm in the backyard. And then my dad, who is like a botanist, photographer, just so curious about the world, and he likes to identify things. And the two of these people together, I just spent so much time with them out in nature, identifying all the different plants and all the different birds and all the different mushrooms and identifying what was edible and what's not. So today I had a chance to go out in the woods with my parents, and we didn't go out to forage, but we just happened to come upon some amazing food. So I wanted to share it in this video with you. And I have memories from being a kid of going out and foraging for this one ingredient, which I'm just going to show you in a minute. And I remember cooking it over a fire, and it was so delicious. And I remember the delight of finding it and then cooking it and eating it. So I wanted to share this video with you. And so I'm going to show you some of what we found today. And we'll see how long this sunlight lasts because it's really dappled light. The sun is starting to set, so we'll see how well this works. Okay, so we went into the woods and we went to one of our favorite hikes, which overlooks the city below and Lake Charlevoix below. So beautiful. And as we walked, there's different ecosystems, and the first ecosystem we came upon was the brambles, and this was the edge of the forest, and there was just blackberries growing everywhere. We had a couple. A lot of them weren't ripe yet, but I basically dove into the bramble and really dug through to find a couple ripe blackberries. And then from there, we went into the woods, which is my favorite part because this part of Michigan has these amazing wild onions, and they taste kind of like garlic, kind of like onion. And the way you can tell a wild allium, so onions and garlic both in the allium family, generally they have a spiky stem and then a big kind of fluff of usually white, sometimes purple flowers at the top. And so out in the woods, you see this network. What happens is once you see one of these little flowers, if you take a look, you'll see them everywhere. And this particular woods was amazing because all underground, they're all connected by root systems. They spread rhizomatically, and they can be considered an invasive species because they grow so well. And so basically when you look out into the forest, as the dappled light comes down, they just like sparkle. They're just like little puffballs of food that you can just see across the whole forest floor. And it's hard to capture any photos of that, but it was amazing. And generally the stem is maybe a foot tall, and then the base of the plant that you eat, you kind of break off. You kind of have to dig down there, and there's usually a couple of bulbs that are all connected together. And you can break apart those bulbs and break them off of their root systems and take them away. And sometimes you have to use a stick to dig them up if you didn't bring something to dig with. And sometimes they can be a little bit tenacious, so you got to get in there. And the top very easily, pops off. The whole thing is edible. The flowers, the stem, and the bulb. With a lot of alliums, that's the case. And so what we do is we like to cook up the bulbs. So we don't care if we snap off the tops. We kind of throw those away and we just dig for all those roots. And so we went around and we just dug up some of the biggest ones we could find. My dad found the biggest ones because he's good that way. He's always been great with plants. He can mimic any bird call, which is amazing to me. He can whistle, all these amazing things. But he's the one who usually identifies plants first, and he usually knows where all the best stuff is. So he found the biggest ones today. Now, this is why it's so important to go out on these nature walks with a bunch of people you know, because everybody knows something different about the forest and about the plants that are in the forest. So we're wandering around and my mom's like, hey, there's the beach peas. And the beach peas are so beautiful. They have these gorgeous flowers and the deer love them. I caught some deer eating some of the beach peas as well. And, in this case, the beach peas were surrounded by wild grapes. So my mom picked out that area. And then, on the horizon, I was like, hey, are those apple trees? And so we went over and we picked a couple of apples. They aren't quite in season, so they're probably not ripe yet. But there are ways that you can still prepare them when they're not ripe. And then my dad, he was able to identify all these different wildflowers. We saw goldenrod. We saw wild carrots. What else did we see on the trip today? We saw the important milkweed plants, which are so important to our monarch butterflies. So this is where my passion was really born. I'm just so curious about the natural world and what are the conditions that makes it possible for these things to thrive. And we even saw some mushrooms. And so knowing which mushrooms are edible and which ones aren't, and what kind of habitat each kind of mushroom grows on to know if it's the right mushroom. So this is where I really fell in love with my food, was going on these nature walks. So if if you're in an area where you can head out, just go check out the wildflowers, check out any nature trails, wherever you are with loved ones, with your community, with your neighborhood. Maybe there's somebody who knows a lot about the plants who can teach you about them. This is one of the most important things that you can do for your family and for people that you know, and also for yourself. It's just amazing, and you have a newfound pleasure around your food when you've gone and you've found it. There is something about hunting for your food that is totally different than growing it. So normally I talk about growing your own food. I also recommend hunting for your food out in the wild. Go get those mushrooms, those wild onions, any of those wildflowers, any of those wild edibles. It is so worth it. So I'm going to go and I'm going to cook up my veggie burgers, which I'm going to stock full of these wonderful wild onions. And I'll see you on the next video.